lucky enough, my friend introduced me to the current VP of sales at Apollo. And I said, whatever you help me bring, I'll give you 5% of all of the revenue. I wish somebody would have told me before I got $30,000 into college debt that I never finished.
Are you ready?
It's the One Podcast. Are you subbed, my G?
Hey, folks, sitting in my WeWork phone booth here. If your goal is to master the art of sales development, business development, or B2B marketing, or perhaps you're delving into the expansive fields of cold emailing, list development, and lead generation, you have landed on the right and perfect podcast. Today brings the wisdom of Byron-Sierra Mattos, a name you may remember from our previous podcast with Michael Filato. He was an employee number 17 at the renowned Apollo.io, and he's also an expert in cold email and sales development and sales in general. He climbed the ranks of mentorship underneath Kevin Dorsey, who's a sales influencer. And he possesses a unique business philosophy that I think you guys will be interested in, involving spearheading side hustles across various industries. And he's now fully devoted to entrepreneurship after several years of working for companies. I think there's something in this episode for everybody, from insights to business planning, financial strategies that we're transparent about entirely, and explorations and quick hits on these sales technology trends. So you don't want to miss this. We're going to be myth busting and revealing secrets of different sales tools that you may have heard of. This is going to be our most exciting episode yet, so please enjoy the longer length. So we got another episode of the One Podcast here. This is one I'm very excited to do. It's Byron-Sierra Mattos, who is a new full-time entrepreneur, but a guy who's been doing like a ton of side hustles, been heavily involved in the business development, cold email marketing space for a while. I would say almost a pioneer, so to speak. So we're going to get into that for the people that are super interested in that and the new venture that he literally just launched a couple of days ago. But Byron, for people who don't know you, you want to give just like a very quick intro as to who you are and what you're all about?
Yes. Super quick. Born and raised in Mexico, actually. Moved to the US when I was 20 years old and discovered sales by selling bicycles in San Francisco, and then moved from bicycles to chocolates, and then worked at a company called Snack Nation. It was the third fastest private growing company in LA back in the day. And we literally sold snack boxes and snack subscriptions to offices. Contracts worth $250,000, $100,000. It was pretty crazy. And from there, moved on to what we would call traditional SaaS, went on to Apollo, was employee number 17 there, and was with them through Series A, Series B, and Series C when they were finally named a unicorn. And then I wanted to dip my toes in the sales consulting space. So I worked with Scaled for a little over a year. And then I got invited to work at an early stage startup called Aligned that I was really interested in, and then actually had a daughter, as you can see in the background.
Yep.
And as soon as my daughter was born, I decided I had to finally start my own business and give it a go. I feel like now is the perfect time because there's new expenses, but she doesn't really care about our lifestyle yet. So better now than later, I feel like.
Yep. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So I guess we like to ask everybody and just go into the backstory to see how you became an entrepreneur, how you got your skill set, and all that, as it's useful to people who have, that predilection. I do want to go. So Snack Nation, I think that's pretty interesting. Did you have like a particular interest in sales and selling people? Had you read any books, or was that just something like that you fell into entirely?
I've never read any sales books. I'm listening right now to Alex Hormozy's $100 million offers, just to plan on my own pricing page. But other than that, I've never read any sales book. Not that I pride myself on it, but sales to me at least has always been like, talk the way you would talk to a friend. And if it's a good fit for your friend, then it should be an easy conversation essentially. But I'm not a hard closer. I'm not the type of guy to close you at the very end and just let's bring in this deal. And I don't know. And I understand that the relationship builder is not the most successful sales rep, and I wouldn't necessarily call myself that. I'm just very I tend to talk to my prospects as if they were my friend and my friend was in their position, and I'm just trying to help. And maybe helping is just by saying, I'm not the right solution for you.
Got it.
That could be,
Yeah.
right? But during Snack Nation, I was very lucky. My VP of sales there was Kevin Dorsey, KD. And if you don't know him, you should follow him on LinkedIn. His content is amazing. And I was very lucky. That man, quite frankly, changed my life. He taught me everything about selling and what it actually means to sell. And he had a ridiculously awesome onboarding program where you would get a red binder, and it was very structured. You had to do X amount of role plays and sign off by the manager, sign off by the AE. It was very structured. Again, this is the company selling snacks, by the way.
Yeah. So Katie is like a big name sort of sales influencer in the space. So was
Yes,
that
sir.
something where you were like very nurtured by like him, where he would like how, you know what I'm saying? How close, how tight was that mentorship, or were you just like observing the method?
So he was responsible for onboarding of all new reps. He was the VP of sales, and he took that to heart. So there was a new onboarding class of sales reps. Like I said, it was the third fastest growing company. So we were hiring a lot of people. And as it is with sales, a lot of people fail and they go, right? So he was onboarding at least, I don't know, groups of 10 every month or something like that. So he was with you for a whole month. And then from there, you do get your manager and your team and fly on your own. But Kevin, yeah, my interview with him was actually terrible. It sucked. And then he still gave me a shot. He gave me a chance to do it. And I was able to work my ass off. It wasn't easy. I was there I'm not going to glamorize sales. I was there at 6 a.m. and I did leave at 5 or 6 p.m. every single day. And I hit my quota 9 months in a row, and I got promoted from AE1 to AE2 to senior. But 9 months in a row was not easy. It was
Got it.
tough.
Got it. So you had the just hard work ethic, obviously doing it the right way, as salespeople should, just top notch, being number one in there. So that makes total sense to me.
Real quick,
Yeah.
I also had a chip on my shoulder about not going to college. And I'm in an office. I made it. This is the 9 to 5 role that my mom wants me to have. You know what I mean? There's health insurance. Before that, there was no health insurance. There was no office.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing. And I think when I try to hire salespeople, like I'm always trying to find that kind of like story, you know what I'm saying? Or at least piece together something where it makes sense, because I feel like people's motivations are generally pretty straightforward. And if it makes sense. So I think that is a lesson for anybody who's like looking to build a sales team. But in any case, how did you get hooked up with Apollo? And for people who don't know or not in the B2B kind of space, Apollo is like the biggest competitor to Zoom Info and also to Outreach. Basically merging the two functions of the database management, list building, and the actual sales development, sales loft-esque marketing, whatever you want to call it, sales and marketing. But so how did you get involved with them? Or when was that? Because you were saying that you were with them for all the fundraising rounds. Do you want to walk us through just one that sort of happened?
Yeah. So I was also, what was the last thing? Sorry.
As employee 7?
Yeah. 17. I was there.
17.
So with Snack Nation, I was with them through Series B and through Series C. Series C was 25 million, which was awesome to be a part of all of that growth. It happened in October, and I was very lucky because in March, COVID hit and no more snack subscription services to offices. Everybody moved to home, and the company had to pivot hard, and they unfortunately had to let go of pretty much 90% of their entire sales force in March. And I quit in October, so it was pretty lucky. Long story short, for Apollo, a friend of mine from Snack Nation was working for Apollo. And the truth is, I never thought I was going to be able to make more money than I did at Snack Nation, because before Snack Nation, I was making $27,000-$30,000 a year and married. So I thought Snack Nation was like, oh, this is it for the rest of my life. I'm here. I'm loyal forever. But then a friend of mine showed me his paycheck selling software. And I was like, oh, okay. Lucky enough, my friend introduced me to the current VP of sales at Apollo, or at that time. And also, the VP of sales was married to Snack Nation's office manager. And the VP of sales asked his wife, "Hey, any good sales reps at Snack Nation? Who would you recommend?" And she said Byron. And the current coworker also said Byron. So it was a pretty easy fit. I never felt it was like a real interview, to be honest. I was felt that it was more of a culture chat. And do you actually fit here or not? And he questioned me about SaaS, just like you did now. And then I explained, yes, I am selling snacks. However, Snack Nation uses outreach. We use Salesforce. We use ZoomInfo. We use Tableau. So I'm already selling SaaS.
Familiar with all the tools, and you're familiar with, even though you weren't in SaaS, like you knew the sales development, the B2B space from selling to the offices with Snack
We
Nation.
were doing Zoom calls with office managers before
Right.
it was cool.
So you had the whole sales process, like the classic SaaS sales process already set up, even Kevin Dorsey did. Cool. That makes sense. I guess knowing all that, what did you think of Apollo as a product or as a company with your knowledge of these tools? Or were you not thinking, like, what did you think of the product and the company before you
To be
joined?
honest, yeah. When I first started there, to be honest, the biggest thing for me was my friend's paycheck, just showing me that he had made, $8,000 in commission for 1 month. And I was like, that's crazy. What? I thought that was unreal, to be honest. And again, still that little chip on my shoulder. At first, I didn't even think about how big the market could become, Chris. Like, I never thought about, ZoomInfo is a publicly traded company. I never put those two and two together, to be completely honest. I saw the paycheck. I was like, I'm in. But once I was there, I realized, man, there was only two sales reps for a while. It was Lindsay and I, and we were the only two sales reps for quite a few months. And we were taking 14 to 17 demos a day, all inbound, of course. And we were just laying in Apollo, quite frankly. It took a little while till we started getting a little bit more established and we got some more reps. And then Lindsay and I started taking a little bit of the more mid-market, eventually after a few years, the enterprise accounts. But in the beginning, it was just doing demos to anybody. One person company. Yep. Let's do it. Right. Small Series A, 17 employee company. But then, like I said, there was a lot more structure towards the middle and end. And then I started seeing how big Apollo really is in terms of market and how much market share there is for them to grab.
Yes.
I still use it and pay out of pocket for the tool. So I'm a big fan.
That's awesome. Yeah. So when you started at Apollo, I think, what was that? That was like 19 or like before COVID, right?
Right before COVID. Yeah. Before.
Yes. So at that point, I had been doing I had a full service marketing agency, and email was one of the things that we were doing. We were using like DiscoverOrg, ZoomInfo, and like Mailshake, like a separate, you know what I'm saying? Like paying per sender, a whole separate platform, a whole separate stack, and it cost like maybe $1,000 or something to like run a campaign for a client that we were already doing campaigns. And then in 2021, this was in 2020, like May of 2020 or something. Somebody on my team came to me and was like, "Oh, there's this thing out there, Apollo." And I like could not even believe it, because there was like you had these like auto changing pricing pages that were like, whatever, it was like $10 for this. And then
It was crazy.
and I was like, and we were just setting up, don't kick me off Apollo for saying this, but we set up like we had millions.
So many people did, man.
COVID coming. So we were like setting up the link in the accounts, and we had Filipinos selecting 10,000 at a time. You know what I'm saying? But totally custom. Meanwhile, I'm talking to Byron, my COOs. You know, talk to Byron about this custom thing. We could have it all in one spot, and the clients don't manage it. And that, as far as I understand, this like white label marketing agency, like Client Feature, was something that you masterminded. Is that correct?
I won't take all of the credit. So when I started at Apollo, they already had a feature called sub accounts. And the sub accounts, essentially, to your point, Chris, is exactly that. It wasn't white labeled, but essentially gave you the ability to start an account completely independent from your own lists, your own safe searches, your own credits, everything, with a different email domain, everything, right? So sub accounts, reseller accounts. So it already existed when I was there. However, they didn't really pay attention to that market. And for whatever reason, I guess my colleagues, my coworkers, they weren't too interested in working with some of these.
Well, I can understand.
I saw a lot of potential. And not only that, to be honest, because the features weren't so gated in the past, like they all had month-to-month accounts. And then it took me almost 2.5 years to get them all converted to annual because it was better for them and changes were coming and pricing increases, new VP, new CRO, all of these things, right? So I got them on annual, which ended up being beneficial for all of them. But what I really did enjoy in the beginning of this, why I didn't make commission off of month-to-month deals. So it's like, why was I spending so much time with them? I truly enjoyed learning with them. I actually ended up scheduling a monthly mastermind with 4 or 5 different resellers. And I would mediate it like, oh, what's working for you, Benny? What's working for you, Daniel? Michael, you mentioned Falato the other day, right? All of these folks, Joel from Modern Outbound as well. And we would just sit and talk for hours about sales, about outbound, email deliverability before it was a topic on LinkedIn. And it was just, to me, it was just fascinating and eye-opening. I was just mind blown by the knowledge that these guys had.
Yeah.
That's why I always stuck with them.
Yeah. I had it's pretty interesting, and I'm just going to pull this up now if you're comfortable with me showing this. But
yeah, of course.
I actually I had I have a technical kind of back end campaign manager, full time guy who was with me for 6-7 years, just doing like PPC, SEO, whatever. And he really researched. He did like a spreadsheet with hundreds of other tools in it. You know what I'm saying? To try to compare what had the most things together that we were getting out of it for a client. And when we did we didn't end up like what you're talking about, like how you were getting people on yearly contracts, right? Commitment, whatever. We didn't sign it like much later on, but I do know that like the technical the people on my team who were like knee deep in this they were like, Byron is the fucking man. Like they were like, literally, I was like, who is this guy? You know what I'm saying? What is this? I had no idea what it was, but they kept bringing it up every single daily meeting we had for a year before I was like, okay, now we got to do it, which was just me being stupid. But so then I did, when we did do it, and I don't think eventually some of the platforms now have white label and like they all copy everything, right? But, that was like a big, like it made like just owning, and I don't know if you were thinking about it like this, but like us having these account seats, and this was a big contract issue, but like the viewer seats or whatever the thing was a big deal because then the clients like they looked at it like you had you owned the campaigns. And like, I'm not even in this company anymore. And I still have clients hit me up like, you got the Apollo, we'll pay you, blah, blah, blah. And like, if we didn't have that situation, like that would have been like easily like, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more.
Exactly.
Attention. So it was a big deal for me. And you mentioned the other guy we just had on the podcast, Falato, there was some other guy who had another agency that you were.
There's Benny from Senders, Daniel from Fuel to Fly, and Joel from Modern Outbound was us 5.
So there was another, who I think, we're really like tied to scaling it. So that's an interesting thing, just like how you were able to like innovate that or push for this and like, literally prop up a bunch of other companies in this space.
I want to be clear. Their success is 100%. I didn't do much. I didn't create the product. I was just there with massive.
Right.
What I will say though, what was fascinating to me is 4 years after I met Benny from Senders, Benny did a LinkedIn takeover for Apollo, and it was their highest subscribing webinar. And I had been raising my hands to the product team, like, yo, product team, like you guys should check out these guys. And I introduced Daniel from Fuel to Fly to Tim, Apollo CEO, and they connected. And now Fuel to Fly is one of the largest API consumers of Apollo. And just like, I am very happy to see that those relationships paid off for them as well, because I know Benny got tons of business on that webinar. They put out the stats, and I think it was ridiculous. It was like 400 or 600 people asked for a demo with them or something like that. It was insane. So I was just really stoked to see, oh man, I'm so glad that like it paid off for them as well, because I selfishly learned so much from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Another 2 things I want to ask you on Paul, and then of course I want to get into obviously what you've been doing after that and the new company. But one of the things that was interesting to me was like when Apollo first started getting big, there was all those kind of like if you had your contact information at Apollo, there was like a page in the search results, in the SEO search results. Was
Yeah.
that, and like I know other platforms, Rocket Reach, org.com, some of them also have that, but is that an intentional like SEO kind of strategy to
So that project, I think it was the mastermind, Krishan, the current VP of product. He is a genius. He started there as an SDR actually, which is pretty cool to see, just the growth. I'm pretty sure it was his idea. Yes, Apollo grabbed like the most searched, let's just call it 1,000 contacts or 500, whatever it is, the most searched contacts, right? And then they added those, to your point, to a contact profile like card. So whenever you Googled Chris Hansen, it would come up with create a free account at Apollo. And that was when it exploded for us. Like the inbounds from there, we used to do 8 demos a day. And then Lindsay and I were doing 14 to 17 a day. It was insane. Yeah. That was a huge part of the growth in the beginning.
Yeah. And now but there was also like some weird like reputation stuff going on where like people were like posting these like weird, was that something that the team there was ever like worried about, or like how would you deal with that? Like there's just like some weenies out there complaining about like their contact information. Now I think it's accepted that if you do mess, your contact information is out there, but
Here's
or like why is it, how do you have a web page with my information on it? I never could send Byron, you go to hell, blah, blah, blah. Like how did you guys deal with that? Or what did you foresee that people weren't eventually going to just acclimate to it?
to be clear, I'm speaking for myself and nobody else at Apollo.
Yeah, exactly.
It was very evident, and to me, it was very evident that we were being targeted by much larger competitors. Without naming any names, you probably have an idea. But if you went to our Capterra, or not G2 Crowd, but the Trustpilot, and there's another European brand, all of our reviews were sucked, man. Just 1 star, this company, thieves. And the more established brands, which ones they are, you could search for them in the Trustpilot and they have 0 reviews. So clearly it's like a Yelp system where you simply get to pay and you're off. We were the new kids on the block. We were the startup. We couldn't afford. We didn't know the higher ups. So a lot of things like that happened, quite frankly, Chris. There was a whole week when I first started there where the website was down and we couldn't even give demos. I literally remember calling my wife and I don't know if I have to get a new job. Because you would go to Apollo's website and it would say like spamware or malware. And it ended up being the whole thing. It was crazy. And there's a fascinating podcast by the ZoomInfo CEO. That same thing happened to them on their up and up. And it's this company from Monaco. It's really weird.
I get it. Yeah, it's just like a revenge. Yeah, like people are weird with that sometimes online companies, you know what I'm saying? It's like corporate revenge or personal vendetta.
100%. But the CTO, Ray, one of the founders, he's also a genius. All of them are. And he figured it out and we were able to do demos again. I don't know what he did.
Yeah. So there's a few more things regarding not Apollo, but just like the email, that kind of space, list building space in general. I want to circle back to at the end. But so what ended up happening there? And obviously that's a pretty, considering what you were thinking with or not with your stagnation and switching to SaaS, that was a pretty Cinderella story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As far as like a sales rep, I think a lot of people would bring to be in 17 meetings a day and be the one running the operation. So what are you even thinking as far as like your sales career, or even, I knew you had a bunch of side hustles at that point as far as like doing some Airbnb stuff. So like, how are you thinking about like your business pursuits in general at that point?
I think a lot of my success through Apollo and the reason why people like to buy from me was because it was more of a strategy session. Yeah, we talked about the product and sure, we talked about features, but it was more of like, and then you could do this personalized sequence and your reps are going to be able to do this and that. And that's where I started noticing like, oh, that's what I really like when we talk strategy, when we talk what's worked, what hasn't. And I stayed close to a lot of my customers, Chris, where I would do, without anybody from Apollo knowing, I would do a QBR with them without the CS rep, without the onboarding team, just me. And okay, let's look at your previous sequences. Oh, dude, you should try this subject line. I've seen it work with other clients. I was just helping as much as I could. And I realized that was my favorite thing. Sure, it's great getting a signed Panda Doc and a contract. That was fun. But the conversation when I'm talking to the VP of sales of who's manages 300 SDRs or 50 AEs, whatever it is, right? Those were the cool conversations. I started looking for consulting opportunities, and I ended up working with a company called Scaled with a K. They are awesome. I learned so much from there, and I was exposed to so many companies. And it was a really tough choice, man, because at Apollo, I was making X, and I felt, oh, wow, this is insane, especially coming from selling bikes. And then at Scaled, they pay great, but the commission at SaaS is insane. So I chose to make less money with the idea of progressing career wise, learn how to be a consultant, learn how to actually make change happen, learn how to talk to CEOs. And I was exposed to, in the time that I was there, I was exposed to probably 20 different projects, each one being a different company, of course. And that's what led to eventually the full-time business owner. But that was the path. It was pretty calculated, to be honest. It was a very tough choice leaving Apollo. I literally told my wife, hey, I'm going to make about $6,000 to $8,000 less per month. Are we ready?
Was there anything that, like, just with a lot of the people who have come on the podcast and people in the community are people who are honestly sales, a lot of them are salespeople, but a lot of them are people who have careers and are like thinking about like just the timing of that move. Was there anything that you did either with like consolidating connections, saving money, like to enable you to make like this decision?
No, I am a very jump off the cliff and figure it out. I dated my wife for 6 months and then asked her to marry me and asked her to move in with me to a closet in San Francisco, essentially. Trying to get my camera. There we go. Yeah, I'm very in the moment. If it feels right, I'm doing it. That's been my whole life. I quit the W-2 job, and Chris, I haven't even finished my website yet, but I just knew it was time. I kid with my wife, but the truth is, man, like if I would have sat down with her and run a spreadsheet of my income and our expenses, I wouldn't have even gotten married. It didn't even make sense. It was impossible for us to live because she couldn't legally work. She's from Mexico, so she couldn't even legally work. And I was making $1,700 a month or something like that. It was crazy. So no, I'm not I'm not the most planned and organized. I'm very much driven by my feelings. I know I have some money in my bank account. My wife, she works full time. No, it wasn't very, not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That's surprising to hear. But so in any case, what did you doing this kind of consulting that you doing on the side? What is that? What do those like engagements look like? So what, one of them, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What do you?
So let me add a little bit of context to my last answer. So last year, without me trying, I got about 9 Apollo implementations that I charged anywhere between 3 to 4K for, without doing any outbound, without telling anybody I own a business, without doing absolutely anything, even posting on LinkedIn, just people who remembered I used to work there and I know how to use it essentially. So that was the plan. And every month since I've been full-time employed, since I left Scaled, every month I've left money on the table, just people reaching out and Byron, can you help me do this? And it's just, I just don't have the time. Don't have the time. And every month. So that's one thing that my wife always, hey, you tell me every time, oh, there goes 4K, there goes potentially 20. And so that's what led to that. I don't know if I answered your question just now though. Sorry.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me because I'm just like knowing you from what I've heard here and like how you do customer service. Like I'm just scrolling through like some of the email exchanges back and forth with my team. Like you could get, if you took on too many of those clients or referrals, I could see you getting inundated because you're not going to want to you're going to want to give them all the information you have. So
yeah,
that's a tough case as like somebody doing a service company as opposed to a SaaS company. Like we break them into these kind of niches, but that's a thing that like you really have to watch out for is like a lot of times you do have like, a very heavy demand, but you got to figure it out. Both price it, not just to protect your time, but to protect not the reputation, but just like the whole thing. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing. Those learnings from that type of stuff and from the clients, how is that tying into the new
Yeah.
launch?
And I'll be real as well. And I'll answer that in just a second, but I'll be real with you. Like when I did have a full-time job and I had these side hustles, we didn't even talk about it, but when I was a Snack Nation, I started an Airbnb business. There's now 17
Right.
properties in the portfolio. I
So-
also, when I was at Apollo, I started a recruiting company that has now placed over 220 reps. So it's a real business. Essentially, it's been running for about 3 years. There's 7 people that are working there full time. I didn't even talk about those things. This was all while maintaining my W-2s.
Yeah.
So what happened was I started getting panic attacks, man. I started just like being completely overwhelmed by the constant context change. I'll go from an Apollo demo to talk about an Airbnb that needs a new washer to, hey, let's interview this person because they want to get hired over here. It was insane. It was just too much for me. So now I've no more W-2, just a full-time role for me. And this week has been a little overwhelming, not going to lie. It's the first week and I'm still choosing my tech stack. Like I said, I didn't plan any of this ahead because I didn't have the time to do it. So this week I'm choosing my tech stack. I'm setting up my auto in. I do have a couple clients, I guess to answer your previous question as well, Chris, I do have a couple clients that pay me a retainer already. So that was also made it very easy for me to quit.
Sure.
Just setting up my tech stack and everything. And more importantly, I've started to finally delegate. Oh man, and it feels great. I have somebody working for me for about 100 hours a month, and she literally sends me 2 emails a day I manage 7 different email accounts like most of us in sales do. So she emails me twice a day with, hey, these are the emails you need to respond to today. So every day I wake up and I have in my inbox what email from who and from what mailbox, and then another one at 1 p.m. And so I'm just learning, man. Like she just started 2 weeks ago, right? Like I'm just learning to delegate.
I could see, if you find the right team or the right people, it could be really good for you. Like I could see you working very well with certain people, you know what I'm saying? But I get the big piece of it.
I real quick, I know I don't know how much time we have. I don't have a hard stop, but I read a fascinating LinkedIn post by somebody and I wish I would have reached out to them and I don't think I saved it, unfortunately. But essentially the post was like, your EAs, your VAs, give them a piece of the pie. And he said his life's changed when he gave his VA 5% of the total revenue of the company. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I'm tempted to give it a try. I have another person helping me book meetings of my own automated outbound. I just need him to actually land it on the calendar. And I told him, hey, I'll give you 5% commission on any deal that closes that you book the meeting. He doesn't have to cold call or do the outbound. He just has to respond to the replies. But I thought that was a very interesting post.
Yeah. My best employees were always like VAs promoted. So I totally agree with that. I think if you can figure out the motivations long-term for the VA, like how to keep them motivated, sometimes it's ownership. You know what I'm saying? It's not like necessarily one thing. I think that could be probably a more valuable hire or operation for most businesses than like your top sales or the other various hires, because it's so set. They're the ones who are actually there all the time.
Yeah.
Like you, which none of the other employees are going to be. So you need that. But I just, going back, you mentioned something interesting. So you had I guess like a realization moment with these panic attacks that you just had to like, what was that was the realization just like you have to kind of narrow it get out of the W-2 stuff? Or what was that?
Or lay lay off the gas pedal on my own ventures and stop taking these calls that are potentially 4K when I know I don't have the time. The stress and the anxiety of, I just left a sales call and they want to do business with me and I'm not even going to do it because I don't have why did I even take the sales call in the first place if I know I don't have the time? But I'm going to be super excited about the project and it's coming from a referral. So close rate is high. So chances are they're going to want to do business with me. So it was the amount of times I said no to opportunities. That was like that was part of the panic attacks. And then add to that, I do have the Airbnbs, the recruiting. Luckily now their Airbnbs are fully run by somebody else. I literally spend 45 minutes a month. Totally fine. The recruiting, I do spend some more time. I'm involved like maybe 15 hours a month or so. So it is something, but I do get paid by that company now as well. I just, before the recruiting business wasn't there to pay me at all. So it was just time and no return. So that was all the panic attacks. And then like, how do you spend time with your wife? And you're trying to start a family, and I gained 20 pounds. I'm down like 9 pounds now. I still have some weight to lose, but I gained 20 pounds, bad habits, like all of it, right? Working till 11 p.m. because one project after the other, and just doing everything that you're not supposed to, man.
Yeah. I think that's a really poignant kind of comment that like, it's a point that a lot of people don't realize, especially who are getting into like a service company or consulting, or you have this niche that works. You have people that are interested in you and you want to work with all of them because A, it's more money, but B, it's just like more, you don't want to let people down. Like it's more excitement. You want to build up that kind of hero, but there is sometimes you feel like there's no limit because I could tell you're the type of guy that could go on talking and interested about things like for forever. But yeah, there is like there is like a point that you get to where it's like, it's just like the limit of it. It's not even like a time thing necessarily. It's just like how many relationships are you managing? The information coming in one ear and one out. Like maybe you could take 20 sales calls a day, but if you have to do like the client relationship and think about all those variables that you're unconsciously processing, like that's where the big issue.
Yeah. And one thing I did too is get two of these guys. This is my work phone, personal phone.
Perfect.
This is completely blocked for any unknown numbers. So it blocks about 10 to 20 calls a day. I don't care. If you're not calling me over here, you shouldn't be calling me over here because I don't have you saved anyway. And this stays in my office after I close my laptop. This stays in my office for the weekends. And it's a huge game changer.
Yeah, I feel like that's smart. You're just going to be getting somebody, you're going to feel so dead or to have to respond and stuff. Like if people are hitting you up. So that makes total sense.
This just stays here. It's here all weekend long. This doesn't go in the room, by the way. I use a Mac Mini, and then I have 2 monitors, and I have a laptop as well, but I don't like working out of my laptop, to be honest.
Do you not feel compelled to check the work stuff off hours on your computer, even with the phone staying in the office?
Yeah, sure. Every now and then I fail at it, but what I am really good at is this doesn't come into my room with me, and this doesn't have LinkedIn, Slack, no email.
Got it.
It has WhatsApp. It's my family. That's it.
Yeah.
So it is really nice to wake up and not look at your work emails. That's a huge game changer.
Yeah. I do a similar thing, and I end up doing it for a week or 2 weeks, but then I use Safari for the, you know what I'm saying? For how do I
just work around?
yeah, I have like a workaround, or like I'll go incognito or something for. So
I've thought about getting a dumb phone. You know what those are?
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting thing. I also did a grayscale on the phone.
The triple. Yeah, I like that.
That's major. You know what I'm saying? But so anyway, so what with the new company, like, what are you hoping to get out of it? Like from a business objective level, like what are you hoping to achieve something greater? And what are you looking to get out of it personally from just an actualization standpoint?
Yeah.
Obviously financial, but what's the, you know what I'm saying?
Great question. Business wise, I'm not trying to grow a company and grow and grow. I'm not growth at all costs. I always want to be bootstrapped. I never want to take on any debt. If we make $1 million 1 year, fucking awesome, but not the goal. The goal is, I think, 400 to 600K a year, and not even on this first year. Like this year's quota for me, at least, is 250K. That would be great. This year 1, 250. I'd be okay with 200, but 250 would be the goal. Let me just hang up that. Not sure what's happening. I think 250 would be good. And the goal is not to have 20, 30, 50, 100 clients. My goal is to have 5 or 10 that are paying me a retainer. And I get that a lot of consultants don't want to do the done for you and want to be the done with you. At this phase of my career, I really enjoy being a fractional leader. I love listening to call recordings and giving you feedback and like getting those aha moments in there. Really enjoy that. Really like leading training sessions and like creating workshops for the team and all of that. So at this point in my life, I want to do a done for you, done with you. Done for you, where I will do the one-on-ones. I will be in there getting my hand. I personally am writing the sequences for my clients right now.
Yeah.
So at this stage, that's where I see it. Eventually, the goal is definitely more of a done with you, where I just sit down for 2 hours a month with you and just give you advice. But that's later.
Have you thought, and that's because you want to do it, right? Like you enjoy doing it.
I do enjoy doing it.
Yeah. So I think that's a question that a lot of people don't ask themselves. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people just want to go and get as many clients as possible. You know what I'm saying? But you're not thinking about like, what is the life that you're going to be living like at the end of the day, and what can you actually do long term? And you know what I'm saying? If you're the person who likes talking to clients, likes doing the one-on-ones, I'm that way, then you're probably not going to be, you're not going to have, it's not going to be sustainable for you for whatever reason, because you don't enjoy it. That's what I had a situation, Byron, where I was like, initially I was doing like one-on-one calls and the emails. I like that because you're learning the company. It's a relationship, and there's like growth. I don't know. There's like some inherent enjoyment in that. And then when I started like just mechanically trying to get everything like a service business, but it's a SaaS, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then like, I'm just like like I want to spend less time at the office. I want to work on my side projects. Like I'm not into it anymore.
Yeah.
Some of the magic is lost, and you can never really get it back, because now your client base or people who are dealing with your employees, and you know what I'm saying? They're like not in it for the same reasons as those original ones where it was more of the chemistry or connection. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's exactly how I feel right now. I feel the joy I get from enabling reps and watching them succeed. I don't want to be away from that right now.
Got it. So I guess coming back so you're very much inspired by like that initial, and you didn't even mention this, but like your whole initial sales trajectory in that career, like you want to provide that to the other reps and have them. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I want people to, I'm Mexican myself, born and raised. I see myself going to colleges in Mexico and talking about the wonders of sales, and not even like US based sales, sell in Mexico. Like I have friends in Mexico who are salespeople as well, and they're making more than the engineers because they make commissions, right? Worldwide, you make commissions. So I wish somebody would have told me before I got $30,000 into college debt that I never finished. Hey man,
Interesting.
sounds like you would like this other thing. Have you considered it? Nobody ever told me that this was a thing. And what's crazy is it employs so many people in the United States.
Not well known at all. Yeah. And a lot of people are not like familiar with all especially around the world, like all the different tools, you know what I'm saying? Like the modern kind of tools and whatnot.
Yeah. They don't teach it in school. They don't tell you about courses or anything. Like this is not a plug, but like Kevin Dorsey, going back to him, he has a Patreon. It's $10 a month, man.
Right.
I watch his things constantly, and I watch the workshops with my team. Next week, I'm doing a sales psychology masterclass. I'm Kevin Dorsey. I'm just going to press play and watch it with my 8 SDRs. But yeah, it's such a bummer that those courses aren't taught or encouraged to younger people who are, I was never good at college.
Yeah, I feel that. I've never obviously worked a sales job, but I've done a lot of my time has been on the sales and working with salespeople. So there's like a dreamy aspect to that I identify with, which is that if you don't have a specific IT training or whatever their education or careers, like a specific path, whereas sales is something that you can get into if you like people and you work hard and you learn it, you can be good and you can have success and you can have a great career out of it. And like the other types of departments, you know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily as cut and dry or something where, you know, your hard work or learning like equates to that vision. So you can sell the vision more, really.
And I don't know if you feel comfortable with numbers or whatever, but just so people know, like within 5 years of starting my sales career, I broke
Oh, yeah.
200K.
Yeah.
That is just great.
Yeah, I think I think, yeah, people need to be like familiar with that too, especially given like your background, like what you're saying there, where it wasn't
5 years, man.
SD sales school or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's
And it can be done. People do it even quicker, obviously, right? Like
yeah,
it's just insane.
yeah, cool. I guess a couple last topics here that I wanted to get your kind of thoughts on. Where do you see? There's a lot of AI. There's these new Google updates as far as the email sales side of things in
Yeah.
particular. There's a lot of new social media platforms. Like I've been doing like lead gen on Twitter and
Yeah.
but even like Instagram or TikTok, and like there's a lot of platforms that you can use for lead gen. Like it's not just email and LinkedIn anymore. So what do you see as the next level in this? Does the AI play a role? Is there a shift in the list building stuff? Like I hear from salespeople a lot, oh, the Apollo list quality, blah, 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 the mobile numbers, you know what I'm saying? But like is there other information? You know what I'm saying? Where are you getting it from? Like the yellow pages or somebody's
I get
like,
100% of my contact data through Apollo for all of my clients, and I've never had any issues with it personally.
yeah.
Yeah, AI is definitely playing a huge role. The way I see AI,
Byron, real
the
quick to
most,
just go back to that though,
sorry.
that it's like I feel like there's like, when people don't have success with their sales campaigns, sometimes there's a boogeyman. And the boogeyman is the email verification. Like I said, I've never had an issue. It's their emails, you know what I'm saying? And the phone numbers, that's harder to get. So it's going to be less. But like I've heard people say, oh, the list verification, but that seems like that's just like a sales pitch to sell something else. Would you agree with?
So with one of my clients right now, we are using an email verifier, but they're in the construction space. They're not in SaaS. And if you think SaaS turnover is big, like over
Right.
there, it's like 15% of our emails are invalid typically. And not because they're bad emails, just because they no longer work there. And the emails are getting auto replied to, by the way. So it actually helps our response rate because we get the auto responder of Chris Hansen is no longer with construction company at, you feel free to redirect this email to this. So it's insane. So we use an email verifier for that client, but like, I won't speak for Fuel to Fly or Senders or anybody else, but I don't think they run everybody through their email verifiers. However, they're super cheap. And if you're having issues with deliverability, just do it. They're
That makes sense.
ridiculous.
Yeah. I get that. Okay. So then I guess, yeah. So I guess going on to the next point, and I don't know if this is what you were leading towards, but so now the list side of it aside, there's also these email, the Google change thing, and these tools that are like personalizing AI, like Clay,
That is awesome. Yeah.
and stuff like that. So where do you see that going? In terms of impact on sales, social selling,
Here's the thing that I've noticed, like AI isn't going to help you craft an email if you don't know what prompts to give it. And if you don't start, it's like you start with the 2+2 on the whiteboard and eventually you get to the calculator. But people are now jumping straight into freaking calculus. And it's, you have to understand why that email works in the first place. If you could, sure, maybe you get a prompt that's badass from AI, but are you going to be able to follow up accordingly? Are you going to be able to talk that way when you actually meet this person on a Zoom call? So I don't think AI is going to, what I like AI for is like summaries. Every time I get a meeting on my calendar, I have API set up and it shows me a summary of the company and it shows me a little bit of who I'm speaking with, their previous roles. And that's just all automated. For that, I love it. But I also think AI is great for like power dialers. We use Concert with one of my clients and like a parallel dialer. So it literally navigates the dial tree. So if you're looking for Chris Hansen, it'll go through the directory on its own. So I think their AI is great for efficiency, but I don't think I'd use AI for my email copy, but Chris, I'll start the email by myself and then I'll throw it into ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, here's my final version. What do you think? right? Or here's the sender, here's a little bit of information about the receiver, but I wrote this first. And then I get feedback. And a lot of times I keep my original copy, quite frankly. So I think AI is interesting, but I feel people want it to just be your complete replacer of everything. And it's just not.
There's a good video by this guy, Adam Conover or something like that, where he's generally talking about like the AI kind of hype train. And I agree with that, which is, I think it's good for if you want to get like ideas for something or like
Yeah.
stuff like for this video and audio stuff, like it's pretty good, but I've never seen it like, it doesn't come up with the premise for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You still have to understand it. And it is a tool, but it's definitely not like what people think it is. Like, we're going to automate away the sales industry. And every single pitch is, oh, we're changing. You know what I'm saying? People are not going to have jobs. That is totally not it. It's like another, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's like tools get better at certain things. Like, it's just another like algorithm, but it's not like the AI is a crazy thing that people think it is.
Also, to your point earlier about list building, what do most people do in my experience, Chris? They build a fat list of 7,319 people and they add it to their one sequence with 0 A/B tests.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I've seen companies, I've been privy to companies that have 50 million ARR, and I take a look at their sequences and it's, you guys aren't going to do anything about this 11% bounce rate on step 7 that's been going on for 9 months. Like, really? You guys never thought about maybe removing the attachments or the bullet points or something? I don't know, any A/B tests? Like, really? You guys sent 12,000 emails with 0 A/B tests? Okay. So
I've been that
list. Yeah. But the list, like, it should be super personalized. You should be doing like targeted by location, by pain point within one company. You should be reaching out to 4 to 7 to 10 people, each with their own pain points, value props. And people don't do that. But any company should have around 40 sequences.
Yeah.
Highly targeted ones.
Yeah.
It's still the same list in Apollo. It's just different filters.
Yeah. And what do you think about that? The whole email deliverability thing with Google update. I feel like that's not that big of a deal.
I feel like it's not a big of a deal because now you have companies that'll create emails. And I did a demo the other day. Oh, you told me about them.
I did Mailforge. Yeah. I just interviewed him like 2 weeks ago.
It's awesome.
Yesterday. It's awesome. Yeah. It totally solves that.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the video or if you haven't, if anybody who's listening, go to their website. And I checked out the video myself and I did a demo with him and I'm just waiting for him to release the white label.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I feel like it's no longer a problem because I also met somebody in Pakistan who will, for 50 cents USD, will sell you your DKIM, SPF, and DMARC, will install it to your smart lead warmer or instantly, whatever you want. And all you have to do is give him the domains. And then he is a wholesaler of Google and Microsoft accounts. So he'll sell you for $2 a month. You'll get a Gmail versus $6 if you pay directly to Google and Microsoft, or $9. So I feel like it's only created more of an issue because now I'm hearing companies that own freaking 27 domains and 97 mailboxes, all sending 35 emails a day. So it's, God,
yes, do that. That's what I'm saying. Like, at one point I had like with the send grids, like we're using cards, you know what I'm saying? The addresses. And I was always freaked out to figure this out, but like
the IP addresses. Yeah.
And you're paying them money anyway. If you're paying for 1,000 Google domains, like that's a decent chunk of change for Google. So like, most people are not going to go out and buy hundreds of domains. So I've always had people always have the idea, oh, cold email is going to die, cold call is going to die, XYZ is going to die. And I honestly will admit that I have believed that was the case because it seemed if everybody figures out how to do it. But the thing is, like, most people are doing it badly.
Wrong.
You know what I'm saying? So it never gets to that point where not enough people are going to be able to do good stuff. Even the other day, like I'm promoting this community Discord. I'm writing out cold emails to like some pretty big deal type people for partnerships and responses. And I haven't done cold email in 9 months and then set it up with Smart Leader or Instantly. And I didn't really do anything with like warm ups or anything crazy with the domains at like 30, 40 a day. good email. I knew the segmentation, and I'm getting boom, 5, 10,
Of course.
whatever. So I don't know why that I did believe that like people were going to figure it out. People were going to figure it out or so. I don't know. Do you find that there's like this collective insanity, or like, where's that coming from?
Typically, those are the people who sell those types of services, in my opinion. Like everybody who's saying, oh, everybody who posts about Gmail and Microsoft and all that, they sell some type of deliverability service. But pretty soon they're going to be obsolete with companies like MailForge and with people like the guy I know from Pakistan who will, for 50 cents, do it, the whole thing for you.
Right.
So it's, pretty soon they're going to automate it just like MailForge is. I don't know where the fear is coming, because it is real. Like people are getting emails blocked and people's domains are getting blocked. So you should be careful, but you don't always need all these things. Like I mentioned, right? Like the reason I was able to quit my job is because I've had one client as a retainer for over a year now that pays me $5,000 a month. And that's part of the stress. I had a full-time job plus the 40 hours a month that I did for them. Like with them, our outbound, we don't sell SaaS. We sell doors, access doors. It's completely different space, right? So over there, Chris, and I'm happy to show you the numbers, man. We have a 6.5% response rate on our cold sequence. We have about an 11% response rate on our warm sequence. And we also use a parallel dialer, and we have a connect for every 5 to 7 dials. My rep's quota is to have 34 to 50 conversations a day. All of that data is coming from Apollo, by the way. No warm up, no alternate domains, none of that. Main domain even, but response rate is there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's like where you set the benchmark on these days.
Yeah, you have to do Fuel to Fly, right? I've taken a look at their sequences and it's awesome. They go after wellness companies and they'll have an entire sequence with wellness pain points, wellness verbiage, and then they'll go after blue collar industry. They'll go after everything, but they make sure that everybody they go after has their own unique messaging, and nobody has that nowadays.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, if I'm looking back to how I thought of this, like I may have had I may have understood the market really well, or spent a lot of time doing the customization or just like talk to the right people to come up with the right customization. And we had a really good campaign.
Yeah.
And then you look back on that and you're comparing everything back to that. And it's very easy to come to the conclusion that email is dead, or whatever it is, the platform Apollo is dead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just like that's an easier conclusion to come through than what's the work that you need to do to like actually do it.
Then your targeting is bad. Your messaging isn't correct.
Yeah.
I've gotten emails for marketers that I'm like, I'm clearly not a marketer. That's part of the problem. Your segmentation, your list building.
So do you do the campaigns these days in all in Apollo, or do you use these like other tools we mentioned, like Smart Lead or Instantly, or these other kind of?
I just started to play with Smart Lead and Instantly, and this company I'm telling you about, the access stores, I just transferred some sequences to Smart Lead just to see if there's actually a better response rate. For my last client, I did 50% Gmail and 50% Microsoft. Why not? Let's actually test it out, right? Let's not listen to everybody saying Microsoft is better or Google is better. What if it's different per client? I've also heard that you should be emailing Google accounts from a Google account and Microsoft from a Microsoft. I don't know how we can segment that. Yeah, I'm trying it all, man. I'm definitely trying. I'm going to continue. Just this morning, I did a demo of a different sales tool. And anytime I see something interesting, I click demo and just try to get an affiliate link and recommend it to others.
You have a take on it, or I guess like why use one of these like things versus Apollo, or what? You know what I'm saying? What people?
The warm up is nice. I do feel like the warm up probably does help, and Apollo does not have an email warm up. Unfortunately, they did it for a couple of days and then they removed it.
Yeah.
Something. I think I know what, and I knew it was going to happen. I started getting prospecting emails like, "Oh, so you're an Apollo user as well?" And I literally replied with, "Oh, because of you, they're going to shut this off." And they did. Yeah. I don't know if it was because of people like him, but they did. So I do think warm up is important. And I do think I don't think Smart Lead and Instantly are the solution, given that, in my opinion, you need to have a multi-channel outbound cadence, right? So you can't just do email. That's why people hate email, because you're only doing email.
Yeah.
What
It's
if
messed up. Yeah.
LinkedIn and phone and but Chris, most of my business comes, and I'm not going to be doing any outbound email for myself. Quite frankly, I'm going to be posting on LinkedIn how to Apollo videos, and that's where all my business is going to come from.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think if you could do outbound if you're trying to scale, but like for a lot of companies doing like inbound content stuff, or you know what I'm saying, just you're going to get higher quality. Not that you couldn't get high quality from outbound, but it takes more numbers to get that. But
And an Upwork profile as well. There's no Upwork profiles that are specifically to Apollo.io. And a buddy of mine, he in his first 3 months on Upwork, he's gotten 100K in bookings of inbounds. He does HubSpot.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, excuse
I
me,
get
what?
that. That makes sense because I remember 3 years ago or 2 years ago posting like Apollo IO expert. We need this, blah blah blah. And then eventually we're just like, oh, like let's just send an email to Byron and see if he can help us out. But
On Upwork, there's only scrapers. That's all there are.
So there's this kind of like conspiracy theory that like the platform that you send from affects somehow through some magic IP address, and
I've heard that.
Apollo has like more people sending on it, like the plot, and then it's closely tied to that conspiracy theory. There's another conspiracy theory among sales and email people that some platforms like they fake the open rate or like double count the open rate or click rate or something. Have you heard these, and are they substantiated?
I have heard about it. I feel like the open rate, because of everything I've researched, it seems like the open rate, it's not that they're inflating it, it's that they're actually being opened like by Apple or Microsoft, or there are these companies that scan the pixels before allowing access. So what I've heard is that you should be disabling your open rate because it's just a vanity metric, and you should be judging it based on response rate. I know for a fact that Smart Lead, the response rate in Smart Lead is the response rate off of the opens. And that's a little misleading because you could be really excited. Look at me, I have a 6% open,
Right.
6% response rate. No, you actually have a 0.3 response rate. You're just going off of your opens. And your
Right.
open rate also sucks, by the way. I don't discard the idea that your IP address from Apollo may be tainted. I have no clue, but I've heard it so many times. And I've heard of people moving from Apollo to Smart Lead that do email only. And oh yeah, we saw a huge jump from Smart Lead. I don't know if they created alternate domains and warmed them up before doing
I think
so.
because it's if you look at it, and not to interrupt you there, but
No, please.
this was another big concern. Like back in the day, before these platforms existed, like 2015 or something, people were sending cold emails through Pardot or HubSpot directly.
HubSpot, yeah.
And the big concern was like, should I just write them out in my like use Gmass or some like extension, because using the HubSpot like some forwarding, or I don't know, it comes from their IP address. But I've heard that too, and I almost paid these people, this Indian company, 10 grand because they were like, at one point they were saying something about that. And I just think, well, I don't buy it. I don't think that it doesn't make any sense to me, because it's just, if something about Apollo affects the way your emails are delivered, like they can trace that it comes from Apollo, then people would never send emails from Salesforce or any other big CRM, because
Or
it's
HubSpot.
right. Exactly. Because it affects, if there's something tied to that, like people, it doesn't make any sense that it would be tied to the same thing. And I don't think that
So outreach has been around for longer.
yeah, exactly. And I think people are too much, they're too quick to, it's like that big brother, just because people think that like the data companies or the tech companies are like watching you all the time. Like they really think that there's like really like statistics embedded in everything. And oftentimes when you have to look into it, it's not as like big brothery. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they do track some information, but they're not tweaking it. You hear the same thing about like the social media algorithms or SEO.
Yeah.
Google's always changing it, and they're like manipulating. You can't get big on Instagram anymore or whatever it may be. But it turns out, yes, they do make some tweaks, but they're not monitoring whether you have a red or green color in your image, your headshot,
Yeah.
like the quality of your headshot.
Yeah, I did hear, and I don't know this, but I did hear that Smart Lead changes their IP address every now and then or something like that. So if they're doing it, maybe there's something to it. I would assume Apollo with $110 million in the bank
it's going to
would
be
be able to do what a small startup is able to do and rotate IP addresses. I refuse to believe that Apollo wouldn't be able to do what Smartly does. If that's
I
the
agree
case.
the same thing. There's no any secrets in the space. They're going to get spread around super quickly. There's no reason why Apollo with a ton of money or whatever other
It was so much money.
people who've been in the space like a long time, like Sujan from Mailshake or like
Mailshake, yeah.
those guys have been in it. Or the Lemlist was, you know what I'm saying? Like, They, do, you know what I'm saying? I doubt that there's like any like kind of crazy.
So I was having issues with deliverability with my Canadian client, the Access Stores one. We moved from HubSpot to Apollo and our deliverability went down by 5%. Our bounce rate jumped. So Chris, I was on this boat literally 3 weeks ago, man. I was like, I made the recommendation. I told them to leave HubSpot. This is crazy. And then it turns out our SPF and DKIM were off.
Yeah. Yep.
Fixed it.
Yeah.
That's it. That was it. SPF and DKIM were off. We're not properly routed. I don't know what it is. I don't know the specific terms, but we did a meeting with somebody who I know in my world, and he told us like, oh, this and that. And then he told us how to fix it. We fixed it. And magically our bounce rate went from like 6%. We had a bounce of 16% from January 15th through the 19th. We fixed it. And our bounce rate went back down to 2.6, and our response rate jumped back up again. So it happened to be when we moved from HubSpot to Apollo. But then when you dig deeper, you start realizing some stuff.
Have you heard of this company, ListKit?
ListKit, I have not yet, but I'm looking at it now.
I've only heard of this because it's like an integration in Smartly next to like Clay and like HubSpot.
Yeah.
And it's priced like a little more per unit than Apollo. And it's like just the data component. I think it's I think it doesn't, there's a lot like gurus talking about this, but I don't think that I don't think there's anything necessarily different about it, but I was just curious if you had a perspective on that.
No, I haven't. I'm checking it out. I do have a question for you. So if you're on ListKit's website right now, do you see how his screen and his video like moves in and zooms in and out? I'm going to start doing tutorials for Apollo. What do you recommend I use, man? It seems like you're very exposed to all these things. Loom is not good for that, I don't think, huh?
To be honest, I have Final Cut, which I use for some things, but like that, you can do pretty much anything that you need for any type of social media content video with Canva. Very
Canva.
easy.
Yeah. Canva, the really
design. Oh, wow. Yeah. They had now it has everything for video too, as well as do things like AI, like background removal for videos, which is like you know what I'm saying? It used to be.
I have no clue. You record the video through Canva directly or what?
You could, but I would record in like a different program.
And then you upload it. Got it.
I actually did a video about this recently, but I would do Descript. Record via Descript. And people who watch the channel would know this, but it's, if you record via Descript, it'll do things like remove filler words, all that type of the sound mastering, like some of the image stuff. And then you can shoot that integrated directly to Canva. And now you have a whole canvas for video editing. You can do the zooming and everything like super, super easy.
Okay.
And then publish right there to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So once you get familiar with this, you're going to be like machine.
Well, and
my sense.
And earlier you were asking about like lead generation. I was telling you about VAs. I also just started working with a marketing specific, somebody who has marketing experience. He's from India and he cold emailed me and was just one of the best cold emails I've seen in a while. Very well structured, exactly all the information you would need. And I contacted him and I was like, listen, I don't have a full-time role, but I see you're in marketing, your experiences in marketing. How about you help me with video editing? You help me with, we'll create little videos. You'll post them on my YouTube channel. You'll post them on TikTok. And he's all about it. And I offered him I did what the LinkedIn post said. I was like, let's try it out. I was like, whatever. I didn't say of the whole business, but I said, whatever you help me bring in, if we post something on YouTube and we get a lead, I'll give you 5% of all of the revenue forever for that client. So I'm trying it myself.
Yeah. I think that's extremely smart, especially, and I do think that you could work out like commission deals and stuff like this for the foreign kind of YouTube editors and stuff that message you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that the people who send you really good cold emails to work with you, those can be like some of the best people you ever work with.
I
Yeah.
immediately replied Chris with my calendar link. I was like, Dilu,
Yeah, I'll
that
call
is
him.
yeah, he's open. I was like, Dilu, that's one of the best cold emails I've gotten. Let's chat ASAP. He immediately booked the call, was on time, camera on. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. So that's sick. One last question, because a lot of people do LinkedIn. Do you use any like LinkedIn tools? Have you used this Expandy or DuckSoup, or have you used any LinkedIn automation or no?
I'm looking into Dripify is the one I'm most familiar with. Expandy, I've also used myself. I've looked into those LinkedIn agencies where they record you for 1 hour and then they make all these posts. But I'm going to try and do that
Okay.
with Dilu, the marketing guy, and see
Yeah.
if he's into it.
I want to break for you. I want to just to interject on that one piece.
Please.
Talking to the Expandy guy pretty soon, so I want to ask him some questions too. But the video interview to the content thing, I do think that's like the AI usually is how they split that. But I do think that could be like a very good move for what you're doing. Like if you do a 4-hour Apollo walkthrough or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to point that out. But that could be a cool
But they're
one.
expensive though. They start at $1,500 a month. Some are even $2,500 a month. I was like,
I would
can
do it
post
yourself
myself.
with
Exactly.
do it with yourself with Assistant Guy. Opus Clips is the tool that is gonna basically I got another video on that, but it basically like it'll take the recording and puts out the vids. And pretty good too. But you can go in and edit and tweak it a little bit. So guys, if you're watching, to come up with more content and just like not have the correct things, but this is gonna, yeah, you definitely don't need to go for the agency route on this.
Wow. It's $10 a month. I love these tools.
It's
AI B-roll. Oh,
Yeah.
nice, man.
not like
Thank you for sharing
that
this.
type of stuff is, it's not like the tightest. You're gonna want to look it over, but with content that's very like instructional and the way you talk, where there's not a lot of ad hominem stuff, it'll clip it up very well. If you're somebody who like changes tone a lot, it's not as good with the clipping. But
Gotcha.
like I found, like I use it for the podcast and it's pretty good.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely going to look into these things. Thank you for sharing.
Cool. I guess next, so we ran through pretty much all the topics I wanted to run through. Any people you're following, companies you're following right now in general in the B2B space, or like sales gurus? You mentioned Hormozy, the book. Like anybody else that you're like into in terms of the content space?
Yeah. Kevin Dorsey, I pay out of pocket for his Patreon. I think he's one of the best people to follow. Chris Orlov, I paid out of pocket for the Platinum Passport. Cost me over $1,000 and I have his access. I'm a big believer in like, when I interview reps, I always ask them, have you ever spent any money out of pocket for courses? Almost always the answer is no, but every now and then you get that someone special who's like, yeah, man, I spent a couple hundred or whatever it is. Chris Orlov is amazing. I think the CEO of Fluent posts a lot of phenomenal content. He used to be a consultant before building his SaaS, and he used to help companies develop business cases because he himself was like an enterprise rep, and he would close a lot of his deals because of business cases. So Nate Narcella, I think is his name. And then there's a lot of reps that are in the trenches. I would suggest following people who are doing the work today. Bryon Lamana from Gong, for example, he posts a lot of great content, but he's selling today. A lot of the people on LinkedIn that post very often, they are no longer selling. And that's okay. That doesn't mean they have nothing to teach us, but I like to follow people that are doing the job that I'm looking to do today, right? If I was looking to post more on LinkedIn and become more of a speaker, I would be looking for their content. But right now I'm looking for people who are closing deals today, who are following up, who are cold calling today. Josh Braun is another amazing person to follow. Yeah. his examples are I love how tactical he is. He doesn't tell you like this. He doesn't just say this. I love the people who, what's the guy? He used to be at Clary. Kyle, he's now at OpenAI. He's now at Copy.ai. He's a CMO at Copy.ai. You know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're talking about. But
What is it?
keep going.
Kyle. Yeah, this guy. Kyle Coleman. The advice that he's a CMO, but the sales advice that this guy posts, I don't know any of these people in real life, by the way. Like it's so tactical and so useful. That
It's crazy. Yeah,
Josh Braun is awesome.
like makes it clear how the cold calls work for people or not.
And speaking of LinkedIn, like I just purchased this tool called Aware because a friend of mine told me that he used it. And then I was like, I'll look into it. And I just purchased it. It's called Use Aware. And it doesn't let me share a screen, but essentially you can build custom lists and you can say, so I built a custom list specifically for Apollo.io. So if Apollo.io gets mentioned, it'll appear in and I can manage my LinkedIn feed in Aware. So I can comment directly from here. I can like directly from here. And then it'll tell you.
Posting about that. That's crazy. So it's the feed that will give you that for engagement.
Yeah, it's called useaware.co.
Yeah, we'll link that in the notes. That's pretty sick.
I just paid for this literally on Saturday or something. It's expensive, but it's worth it, man.
Yeah, see, I'm looking at one of those too.
Because otherwise your feed is the exact same people every day. So I need to start posting on other people's content, get out there.
Or if you use I use Text Expander for like text shortcuts and like LinkedIn messages. You familiar with that? Just like
Expander? No.
Text Expander. It's just like how like you can put you would like this too, but sometimes like you want to look at, you're talking about Apollo, like maybe you want to look at people posting about list quality on Apollo and you were trying to comment on them to try to drive awareness to a piece of content you have. It's the top of the funnel. You wouldn't want to do that at different times of the day and have to scroll all your feed and look for those. If you had it all in one place, you could have like a similar type of sounding message in Text Expander or something else, and you could be dropping comments. And now you're in the zone on this topic, and you could go through 10, 20, 50 posts that are like about this topic, whereas like it would take you forever to go through the feed to find that topic.
I'm probably going to get Text Expander just because I have a lot of templates in my Apollo account, but I can only use them in my Gmail.
Yeah.
So this will be templates for my life.
You could do it. Yeah. You could use this with the wife, like to talk about your daughter. You could have a couple templates in there just ready to fire.
And just to be clear, I said life, not wife, just for anybody who was like, well,
okay, gotcha. Yeah. Cool. So what's your biggest takeaway for people who are in a similar position to you that you were, who want to be entrepreneurs? Do you recommend overall that they stick with sales and try to iron out a career and a niche in that first, or do you say just go for it? And there's all these sick tools out here, and we've been talking about, just go for it right away. What's your takeaway in terms of advice for people who are like sales minded and want to start their own businesses, but they don't know when or how?
I'm going to I hope this may sound weird, but get to the point where you're having panic attacks before you quit. And what I mean by that is get to the point where you're busy enough to actually be able to quit. Keep in mind that sales is forever. Say, okay, you launch your own business, but you need to close deals for your own business and you need to prospect. So if you're not, I would say, regardless of what your entrepreneur journey may take you, even if it is starting a garbage truck company, you're going to have to need sales. You're going to have to cold call HOAs and building managers and facilities people and say, hey, use my services instead of what you're using now. And you're going to have to follow up and you're going to have to close a deal and you're going to have to learn how to negotiate. So I would say, regardless of what type of company you want to start, if you're already in sales, I would say go all in for at least 3 to 5 years and all in, take the courses, pay out of pocket, work late nights. Like sales is the type of job that is not a 9 to 5, in my opinion. And whoever says yes, I think is glamorizing it a little too much. Depends on your goals. My goal was to grow and I got there. So that would be my advice. Like, they say that you should start doing the job that you want before you have it. So start a side gig, start consulting on the side. You're not getting panic attacks because you only have one job, not 3 or 4. So like, that's what I mean by get to the point where you're getting panic attacks, and the best way possible. Get to the point where you're like, oh, wow, there's a lot going on over here. Maybe there is something. That's what I meant by it.
That's going to be the next. That's going to be the next post there.
Pretty-
Get to the point where you have panic attacks.
That's my advice.
No, that totally makes
Entrepreneurship.
sense. That totally makes sense. Byron, thanks for coming on. Where do people find you? And let's say they want to work with you or they want to collab with you or do something. What's the best way for them to do that right now?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, Byron-Sierra Mattos, Matos. And yeah, hit me up. Let's chat sales. Always down to check out new tools, always down to check out sequences or pretty much anything that's involved in the sales world. Always happy to chat, talk shop, as they say, and learn from each other. If you're a fellow business owner, you don't have to be a consultant, and you're interested in joining our mastermind. We meet twice a month for 30 to 60 minutes, and we just share best practices. What proposal tools are you using? What's working for you? Last week, I presented, I just sent this SOW. Before I send this SOW to my client, any suggestions? And the 2 consultants were like, oh, you should phrase it like this instead of that. You should put this here. It was awesome. So feel free to hit me up. Always looking forward to meeting new people. And if anybody's in LA and listening to this, would love to hang out in person instead of more Zoom. And that's it.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks, Byron. What's up on podcast subscribers? So if you follow my LinkedIn or my, you know that I'm fundraising for the One Network. Got some details on that. I'm going to be linking in the description if you're interested and you've got some capital to throw around. I think could be interesting. Separately, just to kind of pull together some funds and do, because I have the kind of infrastructure to do this on the side. If you like the content that we're putting out here, that we're creating, kind of just the direction of it, the frequency of it, and you think the same could be done for your brand in terms of creating a podcast for you, or just really creating tons of different video content bites, little social media bites and stuff like that, I do have a program that I'm throwing out with one of my old agencies. It's called Marketing Killers, essentially. It's going to be a one-time thing, so this is not going to be like a monthly recurring agencies situation. But if you have issues putting out content for yourself, I know it's a big issue for me for a long time. I've sort of cracked the code of all the stack and the things that you've done for it or that you need for it. And I'm going to be building that out for you if you're interested in creating basically like your whole entire social media schedule for a year. You can just get the video kind of content done to do it yourself. You can get the posts and I'll produce that. I'll write it all and have, kind of some team tighten it up if you want that, or we can schedule it out for you for a year. A little more details on this in the next vid, but if you're interested, you have my email, chris@onenetwork.app or theonenetwork.app, and I'll drop my Calendly as well if it's